بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. Inshallah with chapter number 3 in كتاب التوحيد. باب من حقق التوحيد دخل الجنة بغير حساب. Who purifies Tawheed, as they translated, will enter Jannah without giving an account. Who purifies Tawheed. من حقق التوحيد. And حقق, or as they translated, which means purifies the Tawheed, that means خلصه وصفاه, as the ulama they say, من شوائب الشرك والبدع والمعاصي. That again, the goal is to perfect the Tawheed, to purify the Tawheed. What contaminates or make the Tawheed impure? Shirk, innovations in the religion, sins. And one is different than the other when it comes to the levels. But these are the things that contaminates the Tawheed. For a person to purify his Tawheed from these three things, he will enter the Jannah without an account, as it will be proven from the evidences mentioned. فهذا هو معنى تحقيق التوحيد. This is the meaning of establishing the Tawheed or purifying the Tawheed. Without account, meaning without being questioned. And then he mentioned the ayah, إن إبراهيم كان أمة قانتا لله حنيفا ولم يكن من المشركين, which means verily Ibrahim was indeed a model, devoutly obedient to Allah, unswervingly true in faith, and he was not of those who ascribed partners to Allah. Alaykum as-salam. So this ayah gives the characteristics of Ibrahim alayhi salam. 4 characteristics. The first one, كان أمة, meaning he was a model, he was an example for people to follow in the level of patience, in the level of the certainty, in which these 2 things were the imamah, and to be a model and to be an example. A person would reach this level by these 2 things, with sabr wal yaqeen, with patience and certainty. And he alayhi salam, someone that reached this high level of the patience, and we know the stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and with the certainty in the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he was ummah. Qanitan, which means, as they say, devoutly obedient to Allah. Al-Qunut, dawam al-ta'a, the continuous obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and comes from it the standing in the salah. Afdal salah al-Qunut, as the Prophet says, Afdal al-Qiyam al-Qunut, meaning that the best of the night prayer is to stand long. So, and it means that he is constantly in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, humbling himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with obedience. The third characteristic, ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifan. Hanifan meaning ma'ilan an al-shirk, that he swerved away from shirk. This is what hanifan means, that he stayed away from associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَمْ يَكُ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and he was not of those who ascribed partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he was away from shirk, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and he was away, distant himself from shirk, and distant himself from the polytheists, or the disbelievers. What is this to do with the chapter? Meaning Ibrahim alayhi salam had purified himself with the Tawheed, as we heard. He did the Tawheed, and he abstained from shirk, and purified the Tawheed from shirk, and from innovations, and from sins. And this is how he purified his Tawheed. Of course, it shows the virtues of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and that when we talk about these virtues, that means what? Means that we need to imitate him. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned his characteristics? For the people to take that as an example, and for people to have the same characteristics. And it also shows the characteristics that with it a person would have the pure Tawheed and the completion of one's Tawheed, and to stay away from shirk, and to stay away from the disbelievers, and that the believers are among those who make the Tawheed. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِرَبِّهِمْ لَا يُشْرِكُونَ, and those who ascribe not anyone in worship as partners with their Lord. This is how the believers are. They do not associate partners with Allah. And this is how they would purify their Tawheed, and as a result of that they would obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and so on. Then the hadith, which is a bit long hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith of Husayn ibn Abdul Rahman, يقول كنت عند سعيد بن جبير فقال أيكم رأى الكوكب الذي انقض البارحة فقلت أنا ثم قلت أما إني لم أكن في صلاة ولكني لدغت قال فما صنعت قلت ارتقيت قال فما حملك على ذلك قلت حديث حدثناه الشعبي قال ما حدثكم قلت حدثنا عن بريدة بن حصيب ابن الحصيب أنه قال لا رقية إلا من عين أو حمى قال وقد أحسن من انتهى إلى ما سمع ولكن حدثنا ابن عباس رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال عرضت علي الأمم فرأيت النبي ومعه الرهط والنبي ومعه الرجل والرجلان والنبي وليس معه أحد إذ رفع لي سواد عظيم فظننت أنهم أمتي فقيل لي هذا موسى وقومه فنظرت فإذا سواد عظيم فقيل لي هذه أمتك ومعهم 70,000 يدخلون الجنة بغير حساب ولا عذاب ثم نهض فدخل منزله فخاض الناس في أولئك فقال بعضهم فلعلهم الذين صحبوا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال بعضهم فلعلهم الذين ولدوا في الإسلام فلم يشركوا بالله شيئا وذكروا أشياء فخرج عليهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأخبروه فقال هم الذين لا يسترقون ولا يكتوون ولا يتطيرون وعلى ربهم يتوكلون فقام عكاشة بن محصن فقال ادعو الله أن يجعلني منهم قال أنت منهم ثم قام رجل آخر فقال ادعو الله أن يجعلني منهم قال سبقك بها عكاشة, which says once I was with Sa'id ibn Jubayr. He asked, who among you did see the shooting star last night? I answered, I had seen it, and then explained that I was not at the prayer at the time because I had been stung by a poisonous scorpion. And this shows the virtues of the early generations of Islam, that they do not try to claim any virtues to themselves. Because when he asked him, did anybody see this falling star? He said yes. That means what he was doing when he's awake at night? Probably praying. But he defended himself of being claimed that he was praying. See that they push away any even things that the people might think that of them virtues. The same way they push away sins. So he said, I wasn't making salah, I was stung by a poisonous scorpion. He said, what did you then do? What this scorpion stung? He said, I replied, I used ruqya to cure it. He said, what compelled you to do that? I said, a hadith I heard from Al-Sha'bi. He asked which hadith Sha'bi narrated. He said, I replied, he reported from Burayda ibn al-Husayb, who said that ruqya is not allowed except for the treatment of evil eye and poisonous sting. He, Sa'id ibn Jubayr, said, he has done well by stopping on what he has heard, meaning to act according to the knowledge as opposed to ignorance. However, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma narrated us that the Prophet ﷺ said, all the nations were made to pass before me. And I saw a prophet with a small group with him, and a prophet with 2 or 3 people, and a prophet with none. Then there appeared a large group of people which I took to be my nation, Ummah. But I was told that those were of Musa and his people. Later a larger group appeared, and I was told that those were my people. Among them were 70,000 who would enter Jannah without reckoning or punishment. The Prophet ﷺ then got up and went to his house, and the people went into discussion as to who they might be. Some said perhaps they are the companions of the Messenger of Allah. Others said maybe they belong to those who were born in Islam and therefore had never ascribed anyone partner with Allah. And while they were exchanging their views like this, the Prophet ﷺ came out and was informed about the news. He said, those people are those who do not treat themselves with ruqya, nor do they believe in bad or good omen, nor do they get themselves branded, but they put their trust only in their Lord. On that, Ukash ibn Mihsan got up and said, O Prophet of Allah, invoke Allah to make me one of them. He ﷺ said, you are one of them. Then another man got up and said, invoke Allah to make me one of them. He ﷺ said, Ukash has preceded you. And this is the only hadith in the chapter, and of course it's a long hadith and it's a virtuous hadith, and there are many benefits to be learned from it. But again, the chapter is the who purifies the Tawheed. This is to purify the Tawheed, but the hadith mentioned about a special group of Muslims, those who would enter Jannah without even questioning. It's not that these are the only people who will enter Jannah, but these are special people that would enter Jannah without being asked. 70,000, another narration by Imam Ahmad that there are with every 1,000 there is 70,000. So this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to this ummah, but again, and it's mentioned in the hadith, their virtues. But without getting into the details of the hadith, what we learn from it as we heard it, again, the virtuousness of the Salaf, the early generations of Islam, and that they, whenever they see something of the signs of Allah and the creation of Allah, they do not consider that as something, or they do not let it go without learning from it. He asked, did you see this star? Right? It's a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they relate everything to the purpose of their life and to humble themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, how they used to be, in which they sincerely doing the actions for the sake of Allah. When he was asked, what you were, did you see it? He said, yes, but I wasn't making salah. So that you don't think that I'm virtuous and making salah at night. No, I was stung by a scorpion, that's why I was awake. Also, we heard a very benefiting statement here when he told him, what did you do? He said, I made ruqya. Ruqya is things to be recited for means of cure. And this inshallah will come in its subject, but it's something that is permissible for the Muslim to do. The Prophet ﷺ did that unto himself. And he said to the companions, radiallahu anhum, urqu ma lam yakun shirka, that make ruqya as long as it's not shirk. The best thing is with the Quran, with the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, or any other dua, but as long as it's not shirk, as it will be explained inshallah ta'ala. So when he said he did that, he asked him a very important question. He said, what made you do that? That they don't do anything without evidences. What made them do ruqya? Is it something that you know of knowledge is based on knowledge or based on ignorance? Which is a very important benefit. That we do all of things based on the evidences. That this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And asking, why did you do that? What's the evidence of that? This is their way. And he mentioned to him that hadith that he heard, that to make ruqya only when it comes to evil eyes and being stung. And it shows the permissibility of having the ruqya. But then, he informed of something better, which is a higher level than just doing the ruqya. He mentioned the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, when the nations were presented to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, which shows the virtues of the Prophet ﷺ, the best of the messengers of Allah, and that the messengers of Allah, they had different followers. Some messengers, as we heard, they have huge nations like Musa alayhi salam, and some have only few, and some no followers whatsoever, which shows another important benefit that every Muslim should learn, especially for those in the matters of da'wah, that as a belief of the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that no messenger had failed. Right? No messenger had failed. That means what? This messenger that came with no followers, he did not fail in his message. Right? That means the point is not according to how many followers a person has. What matters is how much the person is on the truth. It's not by numbers. Right? And we should not be deceived by numbers. MashaAllah, we should be happy when numbers are seeing the truth, but we should not be deceived. Why? Because one of the worst trap to those who work in the field of da'wah is the issue of the acceptance and the followers. What works with people? So if it works with people to compromise the deen, then let's compromise the deen so that more people will come and would listen and would have big followers. This is not the way that a Muslim should do, or someone that is a caller should do. We should imitate the messengers of Allah, to be steadfast on the truth and explain the truth in the best way, the best manners and so on. But the truth should never be compromised whatsoever out of the feel or the sincere feeling that we want to call people to what is right. This is such a dangerous thing that needs actually more details to it. But this is where you take this benefit from this hadith. And so the importance is, the obligation is to follow the truth, even if it's less people in number following the truth. It shows the virtues of the followers of Musa alayhi salam, the true followers of Musa alayhi salam on the Tawheed, and that when the Prophet ﷺ said about the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ is more in number as we know, and among them are the 70,000, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, when the Prophet ﷺ left, they were discussing what made them in that level. Shows that they understood that it's by their actions. So they said maybe it's the companions, those who were born in Islam. It was not something given to them as a result of their ancestors or anything like that. It's something given to them as a result of their own actions. Also, it shows what the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, and this is why the hadith is mentioned. The characteristics of these 70,000, those who would enter Jannah without reckoning, are basically the ones that fulfill the complete Tawheed and the highest level of the Tawheed, the tawakkul and the putting the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هُمُ الَّذِينَ لَا يَسْتَرْقُونَ, and this is the authentic word. يَسْتَرْقُون meaning seek ruqya from others. It is permissible to make ruqya on oneself. It's permissible to seek ruqya from someone. It's permissible to make ruqya on someone. All of these things are permissible. But to seek ruqya from someone, it is less liked. It is disliked, although it's permissible. Why? Because these 70 people, they do not even ask people for ruqya. They make ruqya on themselves, because the Prophet ﷺ made ruqya on himself. They can make ruqya on others, but they do not ask people to make ruqya on them, although it's permissible. But these are the highest level of the people that have the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَكْتَوُونَ, and they do not have this categorized, they're not categorized or branded as a way of cure, which is something that is known as in medicine. It's permissible, but it's better to avoid it. Right? It's permissible, but it's better to avoid it, especially if a person would avoid it, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And definitely, medicine and the issue of taking medicine, it's something that is permissible in the deen of Allah. Sometimes it's mandatory. If a person knows that if he doesn't take a certain medicine or doesn't do a certain surgery, that more likely that he will die, that means he has to do such a thing, because he has to save his life. But sometimes it's recommended if it's not going to be of a great effect. It won't affect his health, just trying something. It's better if he wants to avoid it. MashaAllah, it's good for him. But it depends again on the judgment of a Muslim and a doctor that is trustworthy and things of that nature. So definitely it's something permissible in the deen. Does not weaken the tawheed of the Muslim and putting his trust in Allah, because we take means, physical means in this life, and the Prophet ﷺ even ordered some of the companions to take some things as medicine and so on. So they do not do that. وَلَا يَتَطَيَّرُونَ, they do not have this omen or being pessimistic or superstitious, seeing a bird, black bird or black cat or a rainy day or whatever there is, and they would have other feelings. They don't feel good and things of that nature. This is all shirk, minor shirk. Why? Because this is not means to know what is right and what is wrong. There is physical means and there is the religious means. If a person wakes up in the morning and he sees a broken glass, what does that has to do with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is nothing. Right? So that means the person's heart is attached to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create the broken glass as a mean of something evil or something whatever there is. That means a person should be away from such belief. So again, minor shirk is when a person believes in something to be a mean of something, when it's not a mean. It's not a physical mean or religious mean. And وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ, they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's 4 o'clock, inshallah. They put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the most perfect way. Shows the virtues of Uqasha radiallahu an, that he is one of the people. And then those who asked after the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ told them, Uqasha preceded you. It says that maybe he was not, the Prophet ﷺ knew that this person was not among the 70,000 or others. So again, it shows the virtue of the Tawheed, and that how to purify one's Tawheed and to establish the Tawheed by purifying it from shirk and innovations in the religion and sins.